Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fine art of technical difficulty. All right, let me start over again. For those of you that are on the phone line, I apologize because you have to listen to me rabble on a little bit more. For you that are on the television show, then I'll get to repeat things. As I was saying, Pastor Drake, given his training, experience, responsibilities, sometimes has things that he has to take care of. And he was nice enough to make me the producer of this television show. And so as a result, any way I can help him, I do. Like most of the other people here, I owe him quite a bit of support and sympathy, and he's helped me and my family, so I'm very appreciative of that. Having said that, let's talk about the three things that I'm really upset about today and what I need your help in dealing with. Thing number one is that Trump made promises during the campaign. And I understand that it's real easy to say, oh, he was just campaigning, he was just being a politician, he is not really bound by what he says, and so everything's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, I absolutely disagree with that. The problem with politicians is we have been letting them get away with the rules don't apply to them. And that's one of my other key points, and we'll talk about that in a second. Let's get back to Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton and the Clinton crime family are one of the worst things I've ever seen. I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I have a bar card number in California. I am a former military officer. So I kind of sort of take my oath of office seriously, having taken 3 or 4 of them, and I believe that you have ethical, moral, legal, religious responsibilities when you deal with people. Hillary Clinton thinks that you can lie, cheat, and steal, and because she's Hillary, she can get away with it. Absolutely not. Trump is not a politician, theoretically, and yet, unfortunately, guess what? He's starting to act just like a politician. He's starting to say, well, you know, poor Hillary, she lost, and she suffered, and so we don't want to go after her. No, absolutely not. Trump, let me give you some free legal advice. It won't cost you a dime, ain't going to send you a bill, but I'll give you some free legal advice. What you need to tell the media is one of 2 things. Either A, you're going to let your newly nominated Attorney General handle it, which is the absolute appropriate thing to do, or you can say, hi, I'm going to let a federal grand jury handle it. And that is another thing that can be done. Hello, the caller on the line. What can we do for you tonight?
Hello, this is Brother Gary, Gospel Gary, currently in Modesto, California.
Hello, Gary. How did the services for the officer go?
Well, I just want to praise God. I just want to thank Him. Number one, I heard yesterday that Brother Dennis Wallace was a brother in Christ as a lad in junior high school in Downey, California. He trusted in the Lord Jesus Christ for salvation of his soul. And so he is safe in the arms of Jesus. I want to thank God for the preaching at this service. As Jude said, in I believe verse 23, and some having compassion. The preacher, the pastor of the local church, preached the gospel of Jesus Christ with compassion to the thousands of peace officers that were there, that were hurting. And I want to thank God for that. I would also pray that God would comfort this precious family, and again, these officers that are hurting. They need to stand strong, and I'm not a law enforcement, never been in law enforcement, but I know that they have to be strong with their flesh and blood. And so I just pray that God would comfort them and pray that they would trust also in the Lord Jesus Christ. And so we pray all this in the precious name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. And I say amen. So I wanted to just call in and report that and praise God. So it was, even though it was a solemn assembly, it was glorious because the Lord Jesus Christ was at the center of it all.
Did you get close to the service?
I beg your pardon?
Did you get close to the service?
Yes, I was not able to get inside the building. Actually, the overflow, there were officers that were not able to get inside. But praise God, the church is a very nice facility, and they were able to pipe out, if you will, speakers so we could hear it. I was able to, I'm writing a report now. I was able to get just a couple of pictures. It was appropriate. I didn't want to do it, while any service was going on.
This sounds...
So yes, I would...
This sounds unusual.
At both the service at the church and at the graveside service also.
This sounds unusual, but was there any bagpipe music?
Yes, there was. Yes, there was. Both at the service, before and after, and at the graveside service. In addition to, of course, taps was played, the 21-gun salute. There was a flyover by a number of agencies, I'll just say, choppers. So it was a very sovereign, honoring, respect for the departed service. I was moved, and
the reason I ask is our prayer warrior on the ground. I know I'm asking him questions during a very moving ceremony, but the reason I ask is not only am I a retired law enforcement officer, but I'm also a Scotsman, and so bagpipes have special meaning to me.
Amen. Understood. Amen.
One of the things that we officers would talk about when we got over doing a funeral, and the one of the ones that I felt very bad about was the Officer Bonaminio funeral out of Riverside, where he was ambushed also and murdered, is that one of the issues where you have this many officers doing this sort of a procession and showing up is I think it sends a message to those not nice people who want to make victims out of us and who want to take on the cops, that, you know what, the numbers are probably not in your favor, and you really probably shouldn't do that. So I think a society is well served when a procession of marked police units and officers in uniform lay a brother officer to rest.
Amen. There were literally, and I didn't get a count, but there were hundreds of units there, in addition to, hundreds of motorcycle, which are really units too. So if I had to take a guesstimate, I'd say there was probably 400 police officer units that were there, both services. It was, I thought about that, if I may. Now I'm going to have to cut it short here, but I thought about, the man that did this, they ought to sit him on the front row and make him go through this to see what he caused. But of course, that's not going to happen. It's not appropriate because of the woe. We don't even want to recognize that man, although salvation is still available to him too. But it was honoring. It was. So.
Well,
I just want to say thank you for everyone that prayed about this matter. Also, the effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man indeed does avail much, and this was a testimony today. And so.
Well, and we want to extend our prayers out to the family, the fellow officers, the department, and the profession as a whole.
Amen. Amen.
All right, sir. Thank you for your report.
God bless you. I'm going to sign off and take Mother to dinner. So.
Talk to you later. Bye.
God bless you for this.
Say hello to Mom for us.
Okay. Amen. Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, back to the point I was trying to make. That was our in-field reporter from the officer up north here in California. Unfortunately, we also have another officer in San Antonio that we're going to have to unfortunately do services for him. Pastor Drake and I went to the double services for the Palm Springs officers that were murdered, and I have been, unfortunately, to a lot of police funerals. That one was impressive beyond words, just from the thousands of officers in uniform there to pay respects. A little different in its organization, but I understand why it was done the way it was done. So that was certainly a moving experience. back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, I'm going to give you some advice. Do not become a politician. You do not back away from your word. We expect you to uphold your business sense and your business ethics when it comes to dealing with the opposition. For example, Mitt Romney's got no business in your administration, not when he called you the names that he called you. If you think that there are no limits as to what a person running against you can say, then bad move. You need to hold them. You say, guess what? Anything you say during your campaign will come back to haunt you. You're not going to be able to do that anymore. We're not going to play politicians like that anymore. We expect you to change how things are done. That's, in my humble opinion, why you were elected, because people are tired of the old way. Back to Hillary Clinton, as I started to say before we had the technical problem. Your best thing you can tell the media is you have an attorney general that you've selected. There is a federal grand jury system. You're going to turn Hillary and the Clinton crime family over to those two agencies and let them do their job. It's not your job. So by all means, just step back and let the system work and show the respect for your attorney general, show the respect for the federal grand jury system, and let it work. The next thing that I am unbelievably unhappy about is exactly this political mess. I don't see how we can lie about each other during a campaign and then afterwards say, oh well, campaign's over, we're all best buddies now. No, you're not. You lied. You cheated. You stole. You did evil things if you knowingly make a false statement about someone you're running against. Under the law, it's called defamation. Libel, if it's in writing. Slander, if it's said. But it's a shame that it's not a crime anymore, because it probably ought to be a crime. I understand that under the case of New York Times versus Sullivan, you have a great leeway of what you can say about somebody that is running for an office, but from a religious, moral, ethical point of view, can you lie about somebody that you're running against? Absolutely, positively not. So I will not tolerate that. The next thing that I'm very unhappy about, and I'm glad to see that it's starting to change, is this obvious problem of politicians, bureaucrats, government agents somehow thinking they're better than we are, that they can have some special authority or be treated differently than we are. I am flabbergasted that the California legislative members have now voted that the gun laws that apply to we the people in the state of California doesn't apply to them. So the magazine restrictions, the firearm restrictions, you got to give your name to buy ammunition, they don't want to be bound by the same rules that apply to us. Ladies and gentlemen, if there was ever a time for an uprising, now is it. We need to figuratively, not literally, figuratively slap the politicians upside the head and say, hi, guess what? You work for us. You are below us. You are not as important as we the people are. And if you do not do what we the people want you to do, we will fire you. We don't care about your fancy offices. We don't care about your expensive furniture. We don't care about the fact that you think you're entitled to some security, more security than we have. What we think about is you have violated your oath of office. Your oath of office is not to see how much money can I get from lobbyists, bribes, and other things like that. Your oath of office is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, and probably your state constitution, against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And if you're not upholding the constitutional rights of we the people, you're the enemy. Now, does that sound strict? Does that sound aggressive? Does that sound confrontational? I certainly hope so, because that's what I'm intending. If you don't like my opinion, if you think that I'm being a little too aggressive, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You can call on the phone. And when you call on the phone, you put in the number, and we can talk about what it is we're going to do. So let me pull up that number for you. Unfortunately, Pastor Drake has it memorized. I don't. So to get it, so if you pull it up a little bit, I will do a magic trick here and get it for you. Okay, so let's pull that up, and let's pull that up, and then we pull this up, and then we punch in the magic number, WIL. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is how it works. This is how you come in on that magic box. You can talk to me on the show. You dial 1-712-432-1690. You'll then be asked for the access code. The access code is 399430#. Once that's entered, they'll say if that's the number that you entered, push 1. When you push 1, I'm going to hear a little beep on this magic box in front of me, and I will know that somebody's called in. We ask you to identify yourself when you call in, but you do not have to identify yourself when you call in. If you're more comfortable with merely saying, well, I'd rather not, fine. We still want to hear from you. One of the other things that's very important is we are not ever going to limit the callers to people that agree with us. Just the opposite. We want to hear from callers that do not agree with us. We want to hear from the liberal, progressive, millennial, and media members who think that our position cannot be defended. Because guess what? We want to defend it. And as a result of that, we want to be able to do something with it. Following the politicians and talking about, we just can't have regular, ordinary, everyday people have firearms, it is amazing to me that every time they say that, I don't care who it is that says it, I don't care if it's Obama, Clinton, Elizabeth Warren, I don't care who says that. When you say that, what you're saying is either 1, you're insane, or 2, you're ignorant. I'm not exactly sure. If you don't understand why we have firearms, then what I would love to hear the media, if in fact the media was telling the truth, and if in fact the media was doing their job as journalists, if they were in fact the fourth estate that is supposed to be keeping an eye on government, any time a politician started talking bad about firearms in the hands of we the people, the media should ask them a very simple question. Gee, politician, before you gave that opinion, have you read Heller versus the District of Columbia and McDonald versus the City of Chicago? What those are, ladies and gentlemen, are Supreme Court cases from the United States Supreme Court in which the Second Amendment was analyzed and given power as an individual right. Those are unbelievably important cases. And the fact that after 100+ years, the Supreme Court finally took it on and made a decision that it was an individual right is unbelievably important. What Justice Scalia, who now we're beginning to wonder, did he die a natural death or was he assassinated? That's one of the things going through social media. I don't know one way or the other. I just pass on what I've read. Is that he did the history, 72-page history of what the Second Amendment means. Where did it come from? Why did we have it? Why did the Founding Fathers think it was so important to make it the Second Amendment? And it turns out that this is a very long, historical, well-founded, well-explained right that is given to us by the God through the Constitution. As I often am heard to say, and a few other people say it, but for the Second Amendment, we would not have any of our other rights. Now stop and think about it. That's scary. You're saying that we can take on the government and politician with firearms? I mean, isn't that some sort of Civil War material? Aren't we talking about sedition and treason if we do that? And the answer is no. The definition of what triggers our rights under the Second Amendment to protect ourselves from government oppression is the word tyranny. When the government becomes tyrannical and that's an easy word to Google and look at the definitions. When the government becomes tyrannical, then we are allowed to take back our government by use of arms. Is that a scary thought? Unbelievably scary. Is this something that I want to ever see done? Absolutely not. I never want to see it done. I much prefer a peaceful transition through the election, hopefully, like we're going to have with Trump, although certainly the liberal progressives have decided that stomping cars, setting them on fire, looting, and rioting is somehow justified because of how unhappy they are. No, it's not. You're crooks, you're felons, you're thieves, you're liars, you're arsonists. And I would love to have one of you come on the show and try to explain why you think the felonies you're committing is justified because your feelings got hurt because you didn't get the candidate that you want elected. As to this argument in regards to firearms, let's look at history. Let's look at facts. Let's look at the real world. There are 300 million firearms in private hands. They are everything from small handguns up to and including large rifles, shotguns, a few other things. Despite the fact that we have that many firearms, less than 1/10 of 1% are ever used in a crime. Okay, let's think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Less than 1/10 of 1%. So 99.9% of firearms in the United States are never used for illegal purposes. End of discussion. And we also have the fact that Barry Soetoro, Obama, shot himself in the foot. He wanted to try to get the Center for Disease Control, the federal agency that protects us from nasty diseases like Ebola and other things like that. He wanted to get them to declare that armed citizens are a public safety hazard. Well, guess what? They did their job. Guess what they found out? Armed citizens, you, me, we the people, local guy on the street, stop, prevent 2.5 million crimes per year because they're armed. Guess how many police officers prevent? Not even 1/10 of that. Less than that. 1/10 of that number. The other study that just got recently released, which I really find interesting because it's something I have been pushing for quite some time, is that women, ladies, your daughters, your wives, your sisters, your mother, are able to prevent rapes by being armed over 200,000 times per year. So anytime you have a politician who wants to talk about, oh, we got to get guns out of the hands of normal people, your response is to look at them, and after you ask them, hi, did you read Heller and McDonald? And of course their eyes will glaze over when you say that. The next thing you tell them is, okay, so let me understand that. You want 2.5 more million victims of crimes in the United States each year, and you want 200,000 more women to be raped each year because you do not like firearms. Is that what you're saying? Needless to say, that's probably going to make them scratch their head and go, uh-oh, what did I just do? So we certainly get to look at that. The other thing that we need to do is train. I used to collect comic books when I was a kid. I still got a box of them, believe it or not. I don't know if they're worth anything, but at least I've kept them. And the great line from Spider-Man is, with great power comes great responsibility. And so if you have the great power of possession, ownership of a firearm, then the responsibility requires you to train with it. You have to be able to handle it safely. You have to be able to handle it legally. You have to handle it so it's not a threat to innocent people. And guess what? That is a horrendous responsibility. We do not want an innocent person to ever be killed by a firearm in the hands of a private person. We certainly do not want kids injured. We don't want kids shooting each other. We keep hearing horror stories on stuff like that, and we do our best to avoid that. As a result, let me give you some interesting ideas. Idea number one is here at the First Southern Baptist Church of Buena Park, We strongly support Second Amendment rights. We strongly support you being safe with your family. And as a result, each and every month, we teach the ALERT Active Shooter Defense class. We just taught our last class this Saturday. We're teaching another class coming up on December 17th, Saturday. It goes from 9 in the morning to 4 p.m. We'd like you to get here a little bit early so we can get you signed up, get you coffee, get you settled. You're going to get lunch with your training, and you're actually going to learn some very interesting ways of how to deal with an active shooter who suddenly shows up and you may not have a firearm. How do you survive? We're going to teach you how to survive, how your family can survive, how your loved ones can survive. The class we offered at a very low rate. It's enough to cover our overhead. So it's $50 if you sign up ahead of time. It's $75 at the door because we have to get food and a little more logistical issues if you don't sign up till you get here. So for $50, you can come to this class and learn how to stay alive when a bad guy suddenly shows up. And you may think, oh, that's paranoid. It ain't never going to happen. Why are you talking about that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have now been told by the agencies, the intel business, whose job it is to track terrorists and criminal elements, that right now we are under a orange alert for churches, shopping malls, and any place people gather. And that we are supposed to be seeing crimes, terrorist crimes, mass murders. We are thankful that the FBI was just able to catch a guy who was trying to set up a truck mass murder, much like happened in Nice, France. He was going to do it in Times Square, New York, during the parade, and thank goodness they caught him. So there was no gun involved. He was going to get a garbage truck and kill as many people by running them over as he could possibly do it. So much for the guns make people do bad things. No, people want to do bad things, and they're going to figure out a way to do it. Guns do not corrupt people. Guns do not possess people. Demons are not inside of guns. If somebody wants to make a political terrorist statement or wants to steal, rob, rape for you, they're going to figure out a way to do it because it is their evil heart that motivates them, not the mentality or the mechanism of what they do. Back to our training. So we are going to teach you not only how to spot the bad guy, but how to respond to the bad guy if he shows up. So $50 in advance, you send it to the church, you make the check payable to the First Southern Baptist Church of Buena Park. At the memo line, put down ALERT, A-L-E-R-T, ALERT. That way we can account for it. We will send you a confirmation of the ticket, and we will look forward to seeing you. The next one is December 17th. In my not so humble opinion, while it may be a little early Christmas present, I think this is a great Christmas present. So if you text me at 951-261-0799, put in the word ALERT, and then your name, your number, I will contact you and get you set up for the class. If you want to buy more than one ticket, maybe you want to bring your whole family, guess what? I can probably give you a discount on that. Now, what happens if you're not in Buena Park, California? What if you're not within driving distance of this church, but you'd like to take the class? Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We are so dedicated to saving lives, so dedicated to teaching you how to protect yourself, that if you can get us enough students to make it cover our overhead, we will come to wherever you are. I don't care if I got to go to Florida, New York, Maine, Chicago. I don't care where it is. So long as you have enough students to cover our overhead, we'll go wherever you want us to go. The class we'll teach will be based on what your state law is, so obviously we'll research that. We don't want to be giving you any bad information on what the law is in your particular state. But we have been asked about going to Beaumont, Ventura, and over to Las Vegas and Arizona. By all means, give us enough students and we'll come there and we'll do the job. That's what we're supposed to do. Back to the issues. One of the horrendous advantages we now have is we have social media. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have websites, We have email. So I do not ever want to hear anybody saying again, oh, it's too difficult, it's too many people, I'm not big enough, nobody will listen to me. Absolutely not, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for you to get on social media. I do not care if it's Facebook or Twitter or a website or whatever you do, and let your voice being heard. You might even go so far as to maybe show up at a Board of Supervisors meeting like Pastor Drake and I did not too long ago because of our continuing protection battle with CPS, where CPS keeps stealing children from families. And we showed up and voiced our opposition to that at the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. It may be a city council meeting. Not too long ago, we were at a city council meeting in Fullerton because of a problem that was there. It is not a matter of you not having the ability to affect things. It's a matter of you have to do it. You can't sit there holding your blue ribbon beer, watching football, and complain about things are if you do nothing to make it better. The country is only as good as the people that will defend it. So do not complain about the company if you're not willing to defend it. If, on the other hand, you decide you want to become a 3%er, the 3%er, that refers to the historical fact that those who actually started and fought the American Revolution were only 3% of the population. So the reason why America came into existence was because of the 3%ers. And so it is the people that are willing to make that sort of commitment that we refer to as the 3%ers. Okay, so now you say to yourself, well, wait a minute, yeah, I'd love to learn how to use a gun, but I've never fired one. They didn't teach me in school. My family doesn't like guns. What do? I have an answer for that. We have an organization that we are associated with. That organization is Civilian Arms Training Source. We lovingly refer to them as CATS. If you go onto their website, so if you go www.civilianarmstrainingsource.com, then you're going to find a company that is owned by a gentleman by the name of Tim George. Tim George, for over 20 years, has taught combat handgun courses, self-defense courses, to civilians. So if you want to learn how to protect yourself and win a gunfight with a pistol, protect yourself when the gunfight with an assault rifle, protect yourself win the gunfight with a shotgun, we will teach you how to do it. He is very good at it, and he does it. I have been helping him as a range master now for quite some time. My job is to make sure that everybody's safe, so I kind of watch people and make sure that nobody's doing something unsafe with a firearm. We push safety immensely. The safety like you can't believe. Is our training unusual? Very much so. Is it use a different system? Yeah, it's use a system called center axis relock, different than what you've seen before. But will you be competent and safe in using a firearm to save your life and the life of your family? Absolutely. Now, one of the other things that CATS is now doing is there is a great computer system, much like you getting dropped into the Matrix. And you're given a Glock that operates off of compressed air, shoots a laser, and you are put into literally a video game. And you get to take your training and see if you can survive the video game. Bad news is you're wearing a little shock device, and if you get shot, then you're going to get a little bit of a shock in your back. And the reason is they want the adrenaline to kick up so that you're like, oh my good heavens, I've been shot. And you get the difficulties that you're facing if you actually are under fear, adrenaline, those sort of things. The good news is that the whole thing is videotaped, and you get to do an analysis after you go through the sessions to see what did you do wrong, what could you have done better, what was the mistakes that were made. Unbelievably great system, like it very much. So as a result of that, what we need you to do is we need you to make the commitment. We have a new administration. I find it unbelievable that the stock market, which is merely an indicator of what's going on, it it is merely, for lack of a better term, a speedometer of what's going on with the current economic situation. It is more a predictor of things than anything else. Let's face it, stockbrokers are betting that things are going to get better, and that's what makes the value of the New York Stock Exchange go up, in addition to Standards & Poor's and the other stock exchange that we have. So they are merely an indicator of where the market is going. We have hit a new record. Trump is not even in office yet, and we have already hit a new record. We've busted the 19,000 mark. Unbelievable that we've done that. I can remember, show you how long I've been around, I can remember when the stock market was hovering around the 1,000 mark. Now we're up to 19,000. And we keep going. So are things going to get better? Absolutely. Are they predicting a bright future? Absolutely. So it is time to say, okay, the revolution is here, the war is on, we need to fight this, let's do what we have to do. So after you get done with your getting involved in local politics, after you get done learning how to safely use a firearm and how to deal with the bad guys when they show up, what the hell else can you do? The answer is it is time to hold the media to their job. The media are reporters. Their job is to tell the truth. Their job is to report. Their job is not to create opinion, not to criticize things other than maybe by the editorial page, but the average, ordinary, everyday reporter is supposed to tell the truth. They're not doing that. They have this belief that somewhere or another they have some political status, some political power. We need to bring them under control. Is there anybody else on our phone line? Okay, I thought I heard somebody on the phone line here, that's why I was asking. Okay, let's move right along. So ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get involved. The other thing I might mention to you, of course I kind of sort of have a personal reason for this, but I'm going to say anyway, we know that the media, the progressives, the Democrats, and unfortunately radical Islam hate our churches. They want us to disappear off the face of the earth. They don't want to have churches. They don't want to have to answer to God. They don't want to have to follow the problem of committing sin and having to seek forgiveness or spending the rest of their eternity in a very unpleasant place. They don't want to do that. But ladies and gentlemen, that also means that each of us need to support our churches. We need to get into our churches and get involved. It's not that difficult. You're giving up a couple hours a week. So instead of watching a football game, guess what? You can record the football game and you can come sit in a sermon and listen to what's going on. We are here 11 o'clock Sunday morning, every Sunday. We also have many other sermons that you wish to hear, but if you just want to get a good old-fashioned religious sermon, then you can be here at the First Southern Baptist Church of Buena Park. Be here at 11 o'clock Sunday morning, and not only do you get to hear a really good sermon, because he's not here so I can brag about him, but Pastor Drake does a very good job of teaching religion, of quoting the Bible, and giving you good guidance on what's going on. We also then will even feed you lunch afterwards. So if you get here, do the 11 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, lunch is provided. So it's a great way to have a nice meal, great fellowship, and just to touch base with the religious foundation that made this country great. And for any of you liberal, progressive media people who don't think religion had anything to do with this founding of this country, I might ask you to start reading the Mayflower Compact for the first group that came over, and then I want you to think about what the heck is Thanksgiving about? This is Thanksgiving week, and we're going to have great football games, and we're going to have family together, and we're going to do the things that Thanksgiving are important. There are ways that, in my opinion, I think Thanksgiving is the most important holiday of the year, and certainly if I cannot be with my family, I will admit I tend to be unhappy about it. But once again, we're seeing where the liberal progressive media wants to try to either change the names of holidays or change the purpose of the holidays because they don't like what the holiday really means. For example, they don't want to call it Easter break anymore because Easter is religious. It says, oh, it's merely a spring break. They don't want to call it a Christmas break. No, it's a winter break because we can't talk about Christmas because that's a celebration of Christ's birth. We don't want to do that. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Don't let them get away with that. Back to Thanksgiving. The purpose of Thanksgiving was to give thanks to God. The Pilgrims had been through an unbelievably miserable and difficult transition where they came from the old country, they came to America, they were trying to set up a life in America. It wasn't easy. And so to celebrate their success and to, in essence, give the Native Americans a showing of how you say thanks to God, they had the Thanksgiving dinner. Unbelievably great. So if anybody has any doubt whatsoever of what is the religious origin of Thanksgiving, feel free to educate them. And I'm not trying to sell the books, but the very first book that Rush Limbaugh did in his Liberty series was he told the story about the reason for Thanksgiving. And he used a little bit of science fiction, and he have a time-traveling horse, and a couple other interesting things in how he does it. But that first book, he apparently has done a very good job of giving the actual historical foundation and basis for Thanksgiving. So if you have any doubt in it, feel free to either Google it, Wikipedia it, or get the Rush Limbaugh book, and you'll see what that's all about. We are certainly want to give some charity during this period of time. There are homeless people. There are people who are having difficulties. There are people that because of they are out of work or they have some other issues that they cannot deal with, that we have to help them. I do not think that it is the government's job to help people. Certainly, there are some things they need to work on, like veterans need to be supported and things like that. But the homeless issue should be a church community issue, not a federal government issue. And it certainly should be as only a help issue, short term, and not a lifestyle issue. I am tired of hearing about women who have kids, no marriage, no reason to stay with daddy. They just want to have the kids so they can get more money. So they have prostituted themselves to become a incubator so they can get a child and have more money. Wrong, wrong, and wrong. Can't do it, shouldn't do it, very bad. Now, that's not the child's fault. We certainly are not going to abuse the child as a result of that. I certainly do not expect the child to suffer because he was thrust into an environment that wasn't their choice. But we still need to get the churches back to being the center of the community and the center of civilization, as it were. And that's what we need to do. This concept of Agenda 21, we're going to stick everybody into small, tightly, highly populated areas so the earth will be just fine. No, not a good idea. I'm very happy to hear that Trump has finally realized, along with a bunch of other people, that this entire global warming controversy was a scam. It was the government way to try to get more control over you, get more money out of you, be able to tell you how to live according to their utopian idea. The whole thing's a scam. Anybody that starts talking about global warming in favor of it, smile and politely say, hi, I don't need to hear your lies, I don't need to hear your fraud, I don't need to hear your theft of my tax dollars, you go someplace else, I don't need you here. That's going to make them upset, but so be it. Best evidence we have of that is currently the ice caps, and that means the North Pole and the South Pole are now larger than they have been in recorded history. Well, gosh, if everything's supposed to be getting warmer and ice melts, why do we have more ice now than we ever had before? Maybe it's a lie. So we want to deal with that. Moving along on this issue of we the people and the importance of you knowing what your rights are, time to do a little bit of study on that. Whether you go to Heritage College and get their 10-week course on what the Constitution is all about, whether you just start Googling Constitution and find out what's going on, you need to do that. It bothers me no end where, yeah, I understand that I have a doctorate of law and I have a doctorate of divinity, and so I have studied law and philosophy and case law and statutes and history, and I have a fairly decent background in all those things. But it bothers me when I'll ask a question about something in the Constitution, the document that controls our lives every single day. And people look at me and go, huh? And I'm going, wait a minute. Here is the rule book, second only to the Bible, on how you get through life. The Bible comes first, okay? If you haven't got your Bible and you haven't been reading it lately, shame on you. This is your guide book on how to get through life and do well. The next thing after the Bible is the Constitution. It is the nuts and bolts of your existence. And so if you've never read the Constitution, shame on you. If you don't understand the clauses in the Constitution, shame on you. You can get a free copy of the Constitution. And let's talk about that because we're running out of time, and so I'm trying to get something else in. Orange County Fairgrounds. There will be a gun show both Saturday and Sunday. Starts at 9 o'clock. It's at the Orange County Fairground in Costa Mesa. Right outside one of the main buildings, you will see the Civilian Arms Training Source booth. They got a big yellow banner with big black letters, and they have a video running, and they'll show you how you can sign up for and take their self-defense firearms class. Next to that will be a table by the Guardians of the Oath. And you may ask yourself, what the heck is a Guardians of the Oath? Guardians of the Oath is a group that I'm one of the directors for it, and it is an interesting group. It is an offshoot of the Oath Keepers. We had a little bit of political issues with the Oath Keepers, so we went and started the Guardians of the Oath. We have no hard feelings with the Oath Keepers. We just went a little bit different direction. The Oath Keepers are not political, and we, the Guardians of the Oath, wanted to be very political. So that was the reason for the change. We will give you cards that you hand out. There are support cards. And what we want you to do is, in this time when police officers are now being assassinated while they are sitting in their police cars doing their job, we want you to be able to hand a card to a police officer and tell them, you're in our prayers, we respect you, we thank you for what you do, and here's our card. And you hand them a Guardians of the Oath card. And on it is a statement of obey your oath, honor your oath, protect us under your oath, and oh, by the way, here are the 12 orders that you should not follow because it violates our constitutional rights. So it's a very polite way to remind police officers why they're police officers. It also goes to government agents and anybody who thinks they have some cloak of authority when they don't really have it. Well, you may think, well, wait a minute, the President of the United States is a really important person, and congressmen are really important, and senators are really important. Ladies and gentlemen, they're only important to us on the basis of how they serve us, and that's all. We do not need to look up to them like they were gods. We don't need to respect them like they own us. This ain't a master-slave situation. They work for us. They are supposed to protect us. They are supposed to help us, not the other way around. The best thing I heard recently is there are over 300 millionaires in the federal government, and yet the only way you can become a millionaire in government service is to take bribes. Okay, I agree with that. I think that's proof. Anytime you have a senator or a congressman that says they're a multimillionaire, oh great, you're a crook. Have a nice day. So as a result of this, let's look at what we can do to change things. We are in a very interesting time. We have had the worst president in modern history who is going to be out of office. And yet he is so insane, he is so egotistical that he says, well, I'm going to hang around Washington and I'm going to give advice to Trump just to make sure that he stays on the straight and narrow. Yo, Barry Soetoro, liar, Barry Soetoro. Obama, we don't want your advice. We don't want your help. There's nothing you can do for us. We want you to disappear. We want you to go back to Kenya. We want you to put on your lion skin robes and live with your brother and leave us alone. We do not want anything more to do with you. And if that is not clear enough to you, feel free to contact us, and I'll try to make it a little bit clearer, to say the least. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're down to about 5 minutes on this show, and hopefully I haven't completely, totally bored you. Certainly, Pastor Drake is a much more interesting figurehead than I am, but again, he had things he had to do, and so I hope I have kept you entertained. We invite you to our church, as I have said. We invite you to our training, as I have said. We will come to you if you wish us to do training for you. We have several other projects that we're going to be talking about now that we're getting into the holidays, because unfortunately there's a lot of people that are not going to have nice holidays, and we want to be able to help them. The three that immediately come to mind is Schaefer Cox. You're going to hear more about him. The Bundys, you're going to hear a lot about them. And the Hammonds down at Terminal Island Prison, you're going to hear about them. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and your interest. If you were not able to see the entire show, you can go to thewileyDrakeShow.com. You can hit the archives and not only watch this show, but a whole bunch of other things that we've done. And by large, I think I finally got Pastor Drake to come in to give the final blessing and prayer. Sure, if you'll come in and give us a blessing and prayer. Oh, my good heavens.
I'm going to be on VoiceWise to remind them, though, you talked about this Saturday and Sunday, a gun show in Costa Mesa. Guess what? If you would like to come down and appear on the Wiley Drake Show, we will be doing a live, on location, Wiley Drake Show there at the booth, right outside there as you first come in, and we would encourage you to come down. And I'm going to ask you 3 questions when you come on the show down there at the Orange County Fairgrounds. I'm going to say, who are you? And you can say, well, I don't want to identify myself. That's okay. Number 2, I'm going to say, where are you from? And you can tell me Orange County, your city, wherever you're from, whatever. And the third thing I'm going to say is, why are you at a gun show? And I think that would be appropriate to have several people show up. And if they don't want to identify themselves, that's fine. You will be on camera. And I will ask you, why are you at a gun show? And I think that'd be appropriate.
Oh, and so that will be Saturday and Sunday. The show is at 9 o'clock in the morning, Pacific time. And then again, 5 o'clock will probably be out of the show by then, so the morning show would be your best bet. Yeah. We will be at the Guardians of the Oath table. And if you come and appear on the show and you're really nice to us, we will show you where to get the absolute best cinnamon roll that you've ever had in your life. So tonight we ask you to please say your prayers for those officers who have been injured and who have died. Certainly the officer up in Modesto, we'd like you to say prayers for his family, his fellow officers, his department. Remember that the thin blue line, the police, and the thin red line, the fire departments, and those that help them, paramedics, tow truck drivers, first responders, they are what help us stay alive. So ladies and gentlemen, hug your family, tell them that you love them, say your prayers, remember what Thanksgiving is about, and we'll see you tomorrow morning, same place at 9 o'clock at the Wiley Drake Show.
And if you want to watch this show, you go to the archives and you'll look at the title of tonight's show. And the title of tonight's show is going to be The J. Stephen Davis Show.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble now.
He's been on the show the whole time. Thank you for filling in, and I apologize for my absence, but I had an absolute emergency I had to take care of, and thank you so much. God bless you, and good night.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.